4 days into 2022 and we are already looking at a fake New Year resolution. Who's making it? The P5, the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council, the United States, Britain, Russia, China and France. What is their resolution? To never fight a nuclear war. Now this resolution is a rarity. You see, the P5 never agree on anything, not on climate change, not on COVID-19, not even a universal ceasefire. So how did they agree to this one? A, because it is not a sincere promise, and B, because it is the bare minimum. Let me show you what the joint statement says. I'm quoting, "We reaffirm that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. As nuclear use would have far-reaching consequences, we also affirm that nuclear weapons, for as long as they continue to exist, should serve defensive purposes, deter aggression and prevent war." How very thoughtful. World powers are kind enough to let humanity survive. They're generous enough to avert a nuclear apocalypse. What are they expecting in return? A thank you note? The fact is that the P5 has brought us to the brink of nuclear apocalypse. Put together, they have 12,620 nuclear warheads. Enough to flatten the earth. Their armies are engaged in multiple standoffs. Russia and America and Ukraine, China and America in Taiwan, China again in the Himalayas. So they have the warheads. They are threatening war. But they're also urging peace and disarmament. Let me go back to the joint statement. Here's what it says on dismantling nukes. "We underline our desire to work with all states to create a security environment more conducive to progress on disarmament, with the ultimate goal of a world without nuclear weapons with undiminished security for all." Sounds great again. No nukes, yet complete security. But what are these countries doing to achieve it? Look at China, for instance. Right now, they have around 350 nuclear warheads, 350. But reports say that they're expanding. By 2027, China could have 700 nukes. And by 2030, 1,000. Now, these numbers were published by the Pentagon. So, yes, it could be an exaggeration. But the intent is unquestionable. China is building around 200 new missile silos. They're making road-based intercontinental ballistic missiles. They're commissioning nuclear-armed submarines. Last year, they also tested a hypersonic missile. Clearly, Beijing is gathering more nukes. But if you ask them, it's all part of what they call modernization.
It is not our policy to expand dramatically, or in the word of the UN, remarkably, the nuclear capabilities. And secondly, it doesn't mean that China is not modernizing. We do not deny that China has taken measures to modernize our nuclear arsenal, if not for other reasons, but for reliability and safety issues.
Same with Russia. When the Soviet Union collapsed, Russia inherited all their nuclear weapons. Most of them were decommissioned. But around 6,200 nukes remain. Is Moscow planning to dismantle them? On paper, yes it is. But just last month, they threatened to deploy nuclear missiles in Eastern Europe. 20 days later, they're talking about a nuke-free world. What about America? Similar story. They have around 5,500 nukes lying around, but apparently it's not enough. The US Air Force has ordered more than 600 nuclear missiles. They can travel 6,000 miles. Their warhead is 20 times more powerful than the bomb they dropped in Hiroshima. And they will be ready to use by 2029. Total cost, more than $100 billion. How does America get away with this expansion? Same way as China does. They don't call it expansion. They call it modernization. Technically, these new missiles will replace old ones. But why not retire them completely? Because the US is not sincere. France, by the way, was not even happy with this resolution. Their policy permits first use of nuclear weapons, meaning they don't have to wait for an attack. They can fire nukes as a warning. In fact, the French Air Force practices this a lot. Every 3 months, they hold poker drills. French jets and tankers practice dropping nuclear bombs. Nothing says non-proliferation like mock drills on dropping nukes. All these countries are expanding their nuclear arsenal. They are preparing for war or threatening war. So who made them the guardians of the nuclear club? A treaty from the Cold War. It was signed in 1968. It is called the NPT, the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. There were two parties to this deal. On one side, the P5, US, Britain, France, Russia and China, 5 countries. On the other side, 191 non-nuclear states. It was always a lopsided deal. Since 1968, more countries have acquired nukes: India, Pakistan and North Korea, also Israel, though it does not admit it. The NPT does not recognize these nuclear powers. They still focus on the P5, which is why the system is doomed for failure. Take Iran or North Korea, for instance. Both countries are being asked to abandon their nuclear program. I agree they should. But how can America or Russia or Britain convince them to do that? You cannot hoard thousands of nukes at home and then preach non-proliferation abroad. The P5 must lead by example. They should recognize the new nuclear powers. They should work towards a new and contemporary treaty. And most importantly, they must dump their nuclear weapons first. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.